Yeah, so I wanted to start this off by um, reading this article about the Harris and Biden administration being too busy to do weed stuff. But maybe there are more important things, but you know, uh, starting the process of getting millions of people out of prison for minor drug offenses, kind of an important thing they should probably be doing, among many other things. So, I figure this one's a little bit lighter than kind of some of the stuff we might be reading tonight. Although not really, it's not that much lighter. Okay. So let's read this. Okay, so Biden is too busy to decriminalize marijuana, Harris says. I'm sorry, this side by side of Joe Biden and no, I don't want marijuana news in my inbox. Just this side by side of this like amazingly symmetrical weed plant top shot, and then this picture of Biden's goofy ass face. So, Vice President Kamala Harris says that Biden administration isn't focused on following through on its marijuana reform pledges because it's too overwhelmed with responding to the coronavirus pandemic. Oh, specifically with responding to the coronavirus pandemic. What else are they doing with it? I'm like honestly curious. What are they working on right now? I haven't seen any news about them working on anything besides the stimulus bill that already was signed and passed, and even so, there's still like I saw some statistic that said I can't remember how unemployment has actually risen recently. Vice President, let's see, in an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle, the Vice President was asked about cannabis policy and said, quote, "We haven't yet taken that on. Despite campaign promises to push for reforms like decriminalization and expunging prior marijuana records, honestly, quote, honestly, right now, we've been focused on getting people food, helping them stay in their apartments or in their homes, getting kids back to school, getting shots in arms," she said. "That has been all consuming." I mean, what are they doing to keep people in their homes? Like, there's still like tons of people getting evicted, illegally evicted from their homes. Also, like, we're so close on this school thing. We're so close to the end of the school year. There's like literally no point in sending everyone back to school now. We're like a couple months away, 2 or 3 months away from school being out for the summer. Like, what's the point? Just reopen schools next year after like pretty much everyone's been vaccinated. And by that I mean next school year. Madam Vice President, let's talk about hashtag weed. That's what I said to VP at Kamala Harris Monday in Oakland. Well, oh my god, could you, like, optimize your SEO a little bit less? Holy shit. Here's what the VP said: at ease, at Leafly, blah blah, and then they have these pictures and stuff. This is from Joe Garofoli. Hey, I'm a Joe Garofoli. This is the first time either Harris or President Joe Biden has publicly talked about cannabis since the November election. But while it's the case that the administration has prioritized addressing the COVID-19 crisis, it's also true that the president has undertaken efforts on other issues such as the environment, infrastructure, and immigration. All things that were subject to campaign pledges that have now begun being translated into action. Marijuana, on the other hand, has taken a back seat. Also, I was just listening to Well, There's Your Problem, which is a podcast about engineering disasters, and they were just doing an episode on Infrastructure Week and talking about all the stuff, all the infrastructure planning that the Biden administration is doing, and it's it's better than nothing, but it's not a whole lot, you know. Sorry, we're just gonna hide a few things. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. This is from marijuanamoment.net, by the way. But advocates have argued that cannabis policy and the coronavirus relief are not mutually exclusive. For one, ending federal marijuana prohibition could free up more states to set up tax and regulate systems for cannabis, creating needed jobs and revenue to aid in their economic recovery. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last year defended House Democrats' decision to include language in a COVID package that would protect banks that service the marijuana industry from being penalized by federal regulators. She said cannabis, quote, is a therapy that has proven successful, end quote. I wonder if they're going to talk about starting to work on getting people out of prison, because COVID in prisons is a huge problem right now. Still. Not even now, but still. Oh wow, we have like quite a few people in this today. Alright. Cool. Beyond that, providing those protections would help marijuana businesses access the banking system, meaning they could stop relying on cash transactions that puts workers and consumers at greater risk of being infected with the virus. Also at greater risk of being robbed. Right? Legalization would also reduce unneeded police interactions and incarcerations that can play a role in spreading the virus. There we go. Those arguments notwithstanding, Harris' new comments represent another sign that cannabis reform is not seen as a priority by the administration. Biden's opposition to adult use legalization has not changed, the White House press secretary said recently. The administration has also faced controversy after it reported that multiple staffers were fired or otherwise punished for admitting to prior cannabis use as part of the background check process. Oh yeah, that happened like really recently, like in the last few days, or in the last week, I think. Maybe the last 2 weeks. I can't remember Harris, meanwhile, might have adopted the president's views on cannabis, according to Bloomberg. While she sponsored a comprehensive legalization bill during her time in the Senate, she went silent on the issue since joining Biden's ticket, and more pivoted to discussing his plans to decriminalize rather than legalize while campaigning. I mean, honestly, I'm still like, I'm pro decrim over legalization, mostly for the more regulation of business. Not that I'm like anti-regulation, but in the sense that like it helps reinstate or reinstantiate the hierarchical systems of capitalism, right? Like, so you start a weed business. If you have to make it legal, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, kind of, right? Because if you make weed legal, then workers have some protections, but also it sets up like a big, like, it's gonna make it what's the word, more, you're gonna have to regulate it more on the front end of things, so that, and a lot of those regulations end up being like making people register for like certain certifications that cost money and that are regulated usually by private companies. I'll give you like a quick example right now. Like, okay, so I'm taking welding classes right now, and this is not to say that OSHA is a bad thing. I think OSHA is a very good thing because there should be safety regulations. But the way that OSHA, what's it called? Testing for, the way that they provide training and testing for, like safety classes is through private companies. It's through private organizations that do those things, and those extract money from the people taking those tests. Luckily, the welding program that I am in is free for low-income / unemployed folks, which I am. And so they're paying for all of that stuff, but like, it could just be a federally run thing, instead of a private for-profit enterprise. The other thing about this paragraph about Harris may having adopted the president's views on cannabis, I don't know. I think she's pretty cynical in general. Like, she was locking up single mothers and people for marijuana and other, drug offenses, back when she was a prosecutor in California. So, like, I think she was only for only for weed legalization because she thought it would be advantageous for her. But now that she's in power, she's the vice president. She doesn't have that much power. But now that she's where she is, like, she doesn't have to give a shit about that, right? So, taken together, the administration's lack of focus on cannabis has come as a disappointment to advocates. But in the absence of White House action, Congress has made time for marijuana and could bring legislation to the fore soon. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says a bill to end federal marijuana prohibition will be released shortly, and House Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler plans to reintroduce his proposal, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement, or MORE Act. Oh man, people love making acronyms out of stuff. How do you think You think this started as the acronym more, or do you think they like had done it on accident? I can almost maybe they got like part of the way through it and they were like, oh, maybe they had like the Marijuana Reinvestment and Expungement Act or whatever, and they were like, oh, that's like MRE, we could do more. And that's it. That's the article, I guess. Okay. Well then, I guess